The entire hall of guests waited to watch me, but instead came a phone call from Sophia. Her voice was soft, saying Liam was with her picking out a wedding dress, and that H told her she looked beautiful in it. In that moment, I suddenly didn't want to wait anymore. I pulled off my veil and canceled the wedding in front of both families, relatives, and friends. The Hales urged me to be magnanimous, saying Liam had just made a foolish mistake and asking me not to make the scene too ugly. But I wasn't the one who should be embarrassed. Just when everyone thought I'd end up crying and humiliated, Elijah Hale walked up to me. He was Liam's uncle, and the only person in the Hale family who truly held the power. That day, I didn't become the joke whose groom had left her at the altar. I became Liam's aunt later. When Liam saw me again, he finally understood. Some people, once missed, never have the right to call her name again. The wedding was about to start, and my groom was nowhere to be found. The grand ballroom was packed with guests, and the MC came to ask me for the third time if I wanted to play the warm-up video first. I clutched my phone, calling Liam from 9:40 until 10 o'clock, but he didn't answer a single call. In the mirror, my makeup was perfect, and my veil was pinned neatly in place. Everything was ready except the groom. I dialed his number one more time, just as the call was about to disconnect automatically. It finally connected. "I'm sorry, Charlotte." It wasn't Liam's voice. It was Sophia's. Her voice was soft and gentle. "Liam's with me trying on wedding dresses." My hand froze around the phone. She went on, "I just wanted to see what it'd look like in a wedding dress, and I didn't expect Liam to insist on coming with me. He said I look beautiful in it." A sales assistant's voice came from the side. "Mr. Hale, what do you think?" Immediately after, I heard Liam say, "This one's perfect." I looked down at my own wedding dress. H spent only 20 minutes with me trying this on. Later, when I'd asked him which one looked best, H replied 4 hours later, "Whatever." It turned out he wasn't incapable of noticing, he just wasn't looking at me. There was a faint static on the other end of the line, and Liam finally took the phone. "Charlotte, don't listen to Sophia's nonsense. She's not in a good place right now, so I'm keeping her company for a bit." I glanced at the clock on the wall. 10:05. The guests had been waiting for over half an hour. I asked Liam, "Today's our wedding. Are you coming or not?" He sounded annoyed. "What's the big deal if the wedding starts a little later? Sophia just got back to the country. She barely knows anyone here. Who else is gonna keep her company if I don't?" I asked. "Then who's gonna keep me company?" There was a pause on the other end. He said, "Your parents are here, and so are the Hales. You've got plenty of people with you. Sophia's different, she only has me right now." I gave him one last chance. "Who do you choose, me or her?" Sophia whispered beside him. "Liam, maybe you should go first." Liam sounded exasperated, like H'd been pushed too far. "Charlotte, don't make me choose today." I laughed once and hung up the phone. As the screen went dark, I reached up and pulled off my veil. The pin caught in my hair and pulled, stinging, but I didn't stop. When I pushed open the door, one of Liam's aunts was talking to my mother. "Charlotte's usually so sensible. She really shouldn't make a scene today. Liam's probably just stuck in traffic. It's no big deal to postpone the wedding a little." She saw me and trailed off. My mother hurried over. "Charlotte, did you get through to him?" "I did," I said. "He's with Sophia trying on wedding dresses." The hallway fell silent. James Hale came out of the ballroom. "Charlotte, Liam's being an idiot. But all the guests are here. Go up on stage first, and when he gets here, I'll make him apologize to you." I asked, "What if he doesn't come?" James said firmly, "He will. He just told me not to make him choose." My mother took my hand. I knew what she was worried about. The Zane family wasn't as powerful as the Hales, and my parents had swallowed a lot of pride over the years. But today, Liam knew I was waiting for him, and H still chosen Sophia. I patted my mother's hand. "Mom, don't worry, I'm fine." I lifted the hem of my dress and walked into the ballroom. The MC rushed over when he saw me. "Miss Zane, what about the groom? Give me the microphone." James hurried after me, lowering his voice. "Charlotte, think carefully. Everyone here is family and business partners. If you make a scene, it won't just be Liam who's embarrassed. Then let everyone see who's causing the embarrassment." I took the microphone and stepped onto the stage. The murmurs in the ballroom slowly died down. I stood in the spot where Liam and I were supposed to exchange rings. "Dear guests, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting." Someone from the crowd called out, "Where's the groom?" I looked in that direction. "The groom won't be coming today." The crowd erupted into chaos. I didn't wait for them to quiet down. "He's at the bridal shop. helping Miss Sophia Carter try on wedding dresses. James rushed onto the stage, trying to grab the microphone from me. Charlotte, don't talk nonsense. Liam just made a silly mistake. Young people have arguments, we can talk about this behind closed doors. I stepped back. Uncle James, this isn't something that can be talked about behind closed doors. I pulled the wedding boutonniere off my chest and placed it on the MC's tray. The pin tore through the fabric, leaving a small hole in the bodice of my dress. This wedding is cancelled. The entire hall erupted. James's face turned purple with anger. Charlotte, Liam's just running a little late. Where do you think that leaves the Hale family's reputation? I said, he's not running late. He chose someone else. Liam's aunt also came onto the stage to plead with me. Charlotte, a woman has to be magnanimous after she's married. Sophia and Liam have known each other since they were kids. Do you really have to make things so difficult for him? I asked her. Today's my wedding day. What's so difficult about him showing up? She was speechless. I lowered the microphone. If he thinks marrying me is such a burden, then I'll set him free. With that, I turned to leave the stage. Elijah Hale walked up the steps and stopped in front of me. His steps were steady, and unlike the other Hales, he didn't rush to smooth things over. He was Liam's uncle, and the real head of the Hale family now. Miss Zane, his voice wasn't loud. If the groom isn't coming, would you like to pick a different one? I froze. James reacted first. Elijah, don't make this worse. Elijah didn't look at him. This wedding has already started, he said. Charlotte Zane, marry me. I clutched the microphone, not speaking immediately. Elijah picked up the ring box, glanced at it, then closed it again. The ring Liam prepared isn't right for you. With that, he pulled a ring off his left hand. It was a plain band, engraved on the inside with the Hale family crest. Someone stood up from the audience. Elijah. Elijah finally looked out at the crowd. If Liam can abandon his bride on their wedding day, then someone in the Hale family has to clean up this mess. No one spoke again. I stared at the ring in his hand and asked, Mr. Hale, do you know what you're saying? I do. The man I was supposed to marry today is your nephew. But he gave you up. Elijah looked at me. I'm only asking you this. Do you want to end this humiliation? I didn't hesitate any longer. I raised the microphone again. MC, can we continue with the ceremony? The MC's voice cracked. Why yes, we can continue. James's face was ashen. Charlotte, think carefully. If you really marry Elijah today, you and Liam will never have a chance again. I looked at him. We never had a chance from the moment he answered that phone. With that, I held out my hand to Elijah. He glanced at my hand, then took it. The MC wiped the sweat from his forehead and stood back in the center of the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, today's ceremony. He trailed off, not knowing how to finish. I finished the sentence for him. No need to sugarcoat it. I looked out at the hall full of guests and said clearly, word by word, the wedding will continue as planned. Only the man I'm marrying is now Elijah Hale. 2. The MC stood by the stage clutching his script, too nervous to read the next line. The red carpet, the guests, the decorations, nothing had changed, except the groom standing beside me. My goal was simple. I was going to see this wedding through to the end. Elijah squeezed my hand and said to the MC, continue? The MC nodded immediately. Very well. Next, the bride and groom will exchange rings. Low murmurs rippled through the crowd again. James looked furious. But he didn't try to stop us again. Elijah slipped the family crest ring onto my ring finger. It was a little too big, sitting loosely on my finger. He whispered, scared? I said, I'm scared you'll regret this. Elijah looked at me. I don't joke about marriage. The MC held out the other ring. It was the one Liam had prepared, with a large, sparkling diamond. I didn't take it. Elijah didn't take it either. He held out his hand to his assistant, who quickly handed him a men's ring that matched mine. When I slipped it onto his finger, my fingertips brushed the back of his hand. The MC finally found his voice again. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Elijah Hale and Charlotte Zane, you are married. The applause came slowly, and it wasn't very enthusiastic, but it came all the same. I saw my mother dab at her eyes with a handkerchief, and my father, sitting beside her, nodded at me. At least today, the Zane family hadn't been humiliated on stage. I knew perfectly well that a ceremony was just a ceremony. The real legalities would have to wait until I was ready to sign the papers. Elijah led me off the stage. Several of the Hale elders looked displeased. One of them said in a low voice, Elijah, you owe the family an explanation for this. Elijah stopped walking. The person who owes an explanation isn't me. The man fell silent. Elijah looked at James. "Where is your son?" James had no answer. The reception was just about to start when there was a commotion at the entrance to the ballroom. Someone shouted, "Liam's here." I looked up. Liam hurried in, his suit rumpled, carrying a shopping bag from the bridal shop. Every eye in the room turned to the bag. Liam's hand went limp, and the bag fell to the floor. When he saw me, his first words were, "Charlotte, have you had enough of this nonsense?" I looked at him. "Liam, our wedding was cancelled. I told you it'd be right there." He frowned. "Did you have to make a scene in front of all these people?" Elijah stepped half a step in front of me. Liam finally noticed him. "Uncle Elijah?" His eyes fell on the ring on my hand, then on the matching ring on Elijah's finger, and his face drained of color. "What are you doing?" James struggled to contain his anger. "Don't you think you've made enough of a mess today?" Liam ignored him, staring only at me. "Charlotte, did you drag my uncle into this just to force me to come back?" I almost laughed. Even now, he still thought everything I did was about him. "Liam, where do you get the nerve?" His face stiffened. "I was just keeping Sophia company while she tried on a dress. Is that really such a big deal?" I looked at the shopping bag on the floor. "Today was our wedding day. You were with another woman trying on wedding dresses, and you're asking me if it's a big deal?" Liam opened his mouth, but no words came out. Elijah lifted my hand. "The one with the ring on it. This isn't a game." He looked out at the guests. "Everyone here, the Hale elders, Charlotte's parents, all of you witness this wedding. Well, file the paperwork tomorrow." Liam's face turned completely white. "Uncle Elijah, are you insane? She was my fiancé, was." He laced his fingers through mine. "Now she's my wife." The ballroom fell silent for a beat. Liam stared at me. "Charlotte, how could you marry him?" "He's my uncle," I said. "You're the one who keeps reminding me he's your uncle." Elijah spoke quietly. "Liam, watch your tone." Liam snapped his head around to look at him. Elijah said, word by word, "From today on, she is your aunt." Liam's face went pale. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Just then, Sophia ran in after him. She'd changed back into her own clothes, but her hair still showed signs of having been styled. When she saw me standing with Elijah, she froze for a moment, then let her gaze linger on Elijah for 2 seconds. I saw it. Liam didn't. Sophia's eyes quickly filled with tears, and she walked over to stand beside Liam. "I'm so sorry, Charlotte. This is all my fault. Liam was just worried about me. How could you marry his uncle out of spite? You're only making the Hale family look bad." I looked at her. "Miss Carter, when you made someone else's groom try on wedding dresses with you, weren't you making the Hale family look bad?" The look of hurt on her face froze. Liam immediately stepped in front of her. "That's enough, Charlotte. Don't take your anger out on Sophia." I watched the way he protected her, and suddenly all my anger faded away. It had always been like this. One word from Sophia about feeling unwell, and drop everything to be with her. Even now, after everything that had happened, his first instinct was still to protect her. Good, at least I hadn't made the mistake of marrying him twice. Elijah squeezed my hand gently, pulling my attention back to him. He looked at Liam. "Take her and leave." Liam couldn't believe it. "Uncle Elijah? This is my and Charlotte's wedding reception." Sophia tried to speak again. "Mr. Hale, I just wanted to apologize." Elijah didn't even look at her. "I don't need your apology." James had had enough, and he ordered the staff to escort Liam out as he was dragged away. Liam stared at me fiercely. "You'll regret this, Charlotte," I said. "The only thing I regret is giving you so many chances." Sophia was also shown out as she reached the door. She glanced back at Elijah one more time. It was a quick glance, but I didn't miss it. The ballroom fell quiet again. Elijah didn't let the MC say any more pretty words. He just told his assistant, "Take Charlotte back to the estate." The assistant walked over to me and bowed respectfully. "Mrs. Hale, this way please." I looked down at the ring on my hand. It was still a little too loose. It was only now that I truly realized I was actually going to marry Liam's uncle. The car pulled up to the gates of Elijah's estate just before 10 o'clock that night. I sat in the back seat, still wearing the ill-fitting ring. That morning, I'd been about to marry Liam. By nightfall, I was being driven to Elijah's house. My goal was simple: just get through tonight. The butler and the household staff were standing at the entrance when I got out of the car. They said in unison, "Welcome home, Mrs. Hale." I paused mid-step. Elijah glanced at me and said to the butler, "Is the room ready?" The butler replied immediately, "Yes, sir." It's next to the master bedroom. I looked up at him. Elijah said, "You've had a long day. Get some rest first. We can talk about everything else whenever you're ready." With that, he placed a key in my hand. "This is your room. No one will enter without your permission." Those words made me breathe a sigh of relief. I wasn't afraid of negotiating terms. I was afraid I'd see this wedding as nothing more than a transaction. The room had new pajamas and toiletries, all in my size. There was a glass of warm water on the nightstand, and next to it, a small box of stomach medicine. I stared at the box of medicine for a few seconds. Liam had never known I had stomach problems. Once, I'd been in so much pain I could barely stand up. And I'd called him. It had been noisy on his end. "Like he was by the river," H said. "Call a doctor yourself. I'm busy with Sophia right now." Later, I'd found out Sophia had just been feeling down, and Liam had taken her for a drive to cheer her up. I picked up the stomach medicine, then put them back down. My phone vibrated at that moment. It was a message from Liam. "Did you really go home with my uncle?" Another one followed immediately. "Charlotte, stop being silly. I'll come pick you up tomorrow morning, and we'll have the wedding properly." I stared at the 2 lines of text and thought how ridiculous he was. Even now, he still thought that if he came back, I'd be waiting for him right where he left me. I replied with 4 words, "Don't come." Then I blocked his number. My phone went quiet. I took a shower and sat on the edge of the bed for a long time before falling asleep. When I woke up the next morning, it was already light outside. I went downstairs to find the dining table set with hot rice porridge, steamed eggs, several light side dishes, and a glass of warm milk. No coffee. No cold food. A housekeeper pulled out a chair for me. "Mrs. Hale, the sir instructed that you shouldn't drink coffee on an empty stomach because of your stomach." My hand froze around the spoon. How did he know? Before the housekeeper could answer, Elijah came down the stairs. H changed into a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, and he was holding a stack of documents. He looked like H'd already finished a round of work. "I looked at the wedding menu," he said. "You barely touched the cold dishes, and you only took a sip of wine. You also pressed your stomach twice before going on stage yesterday." Something Liam hadn't noticed in 2 years of being engaged to me, Elijah had seen in just a few hours at the wedding. Elijah sat down across from me. "If you're feeling unwell, the doctor can be here in 30 minutes. I shook my head. "I'm fine." He pushed a business card across the table to me. "This is the family doctor's number. Call him directly if you need anything." I stared at the card, not reaching for it immediately. Elijah took a sip of water. After a few seconds of silence, I said, "Mr. Hale, I think we should talk." He looked up. "Talk about what?" "This marriage," I said. "Yesterday was an emergency, but we can't keep going like this." Not knowing where we stand, Elijah put down his glass. "What do you want to say?" "I need time to adjust, and I don't want the Zane family to be targeted by the Hales because of me." Agreed. He said it so quickly that I was caught off guard. Elijah continued, "I'll take care of the Zane family. If anyone in the Hale family has a problem with this, they can come to me." He saw my hesitation and added, "Charlotte, I married you. I won't let anyone hurt you while you're with me." I bowed my head and took a spoonful of rice porridge. After breakfast, my mother called. She asked, "Charlotte, are you sure about this?" I glanced at Elijah across the table. He didn't rush me, and he didn't reach for the phone. I said, "I'm sure." Half an hour later, my mother sent the driver over with my birth certificate, driver's license, and all the legal paperwork required for a marriage license. Elijah didn't take them. He looked at me first. "Do you want to go to the county clerk's office now, or wait a little longer?" I held the documents in my hand and thought for a few seconds. Yesterday, on that stage, I'd done this to save myself and my family from humiliation. Today, this was my choice. "Let's go." At the entrance to the county clerk's office, Elijah asked me one more time, "Charlotte, once we go in there, this won't be about saving face anymore." I said, "I know." 30 minutes later, the marriage license was in my bag, and I was officially Elijah Hale's wife. My phone rang suddenly. It was an unknown number. I answered, and Liam's voice came through immediately. "Charlotte, you blocked me?" I put down my spoon. "What do you want?" "Come home right now, and I'll pretend yesterday never happened." I almost laughed out loud. Liam, everyone who was at that wedding saw what happened. He was trying to control his anger. "Are you really going to live with my uncle?" I glanced at Elijah across the table. He didn't interfere, just waited quietly for me to handle it myself. I said, "I'm married now. You're just doing this out of spite." Whether I am or not, it's none of your business anymore. Liam's voice dropped. I'm giving you an out. Charlotte, I don't want it. I hung up the phone and blocked that number too. The dining table fell silent. Elijah finally looked up at me. Do you want me to handle him? No, I said, flipping my phone face down on the table. I can handle it myself. He looked at me and nodded. After breakfast, Elijah went to the office. I spent the day unpacking the things I'd brought with me. Half the closet had already been cleared out for me. The vanity was stocked with my usual skincare products, and even the allergy medicine I took was there. These things couldn't have been prepared at the last minute. I felt a flicker of suspicion, but I didn't know how to ask about it. That night, as I walked past the study, I heard the assistant's voice coming from inside. Sir, should we still set up the art studio the way we planned? I stopped in my tracks. Elijah's voice came through the door, low and calm. Yes, the assistant asked again. Should we tell Mrs. Hale? Elijah paused for a few seconds. Not yet. Don't let her know it was prepared a long time ago. I stood outside the door, my hand still on the doorknob. A long time ago. When had Elijah met me? 4. Before I could ask about the art studio, the phone rang from the Hale manor. Grandma Hale wanted to see me. Elijah hung up the phone and turned to me. There's a family dinner tonight. You don't have to go if you don't want to. I was putting my allergy medicine back in the drawer when I heard him. I looked up and asked, are all the Hales waiting for me to chicken out? He looked at me. I'll be there with you. Then I definitely have to go. My goal was clear. I'd already remarried in front of all those guests. I couldn't hide now. The Hales might not like me, but they couldn't treat me like some temper tantrum Liam was throwing. That evening, the car pulled up to the Hale manor. The manor was huge, and several people were standing at the entrance. When they saw me get out of Elijah's car, their eyes first fell on the ring on my hand, then quickly looked away. I slipped my arm through Elijah's. He glanced at me, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he held his arm a little closer to me, letting me lean on him for support. The living room was already full of people. Liam was there too. He looked terrible, and when he saw me walk in with Elijah, he almost dropped the cup in his hand. What surprised me even more was that Sophia was there too. She was sitting next to Liam, wearing a light-colored dress. When she saw Elijah, she stood up immediately and smoothed her skirt. I didn't miss that movement. Grandma Hale sat in the main seat. She looked at me first, then at Elijah. Sit down, both of you. Her tone gave nothing away. It barely sat down when one of Liam's aunts spoke up. Charlotte, I don't mean to be harsh, but going from marrying the nephew to marrying the uncle, it's not a good look, is it? The table fell silent. Liam stared at his plate, not saying a word. Sophia spoke softly. It's all my fault. If I hadn't been upset that day, Liam wouldn't have been late, and Charlotte wouldn't have married Mr. Hale out of anger. As she spoke, her eyes filled with tears. Liam frowned immediately. Sophia, this isn't your fault. I watched them, one protecting, the other playing the victim. They'd had a lot of practice. Before I could say anything, Elijah put down his teacup. The sound of the cup hitting the saucer was soft, but it was enough to make the aunt fall silent. The one who looks bad is Liam, for running off with another woman on his wedding day, not Charlotte for remarrying. Liam's face turned red. Elijah looked at him. You didn't show up yesterday, but you're sitting here just fine today? Liam gritted his teeth. Uncle Elijah, I know I was wrong, but she only married you to get back at me. I almost laughed at that. In Liam's mind, everything I did revolved around him. Elijah didn't laugh. He looked at Liam and said, word by word, not everyone treats marriage like a game, Liam. No one at the table said another word. Grandma Hale finally spoke. Elijah, are you really going to stand by her? Elijah took my hand and placed it on the table. She is my wife. It was a simple statement, but everyone in the room understood what it meant. This wasn't a temporary rescue mission. This wasn't him cleaning up the Hale family's mess. He was standing in the Hale family's ancestral home, in front of all the elders, claiming me as his own. My fingers twitched slightly. The ring was still a little loose, but he seemed to notice, and he laced his fingers through mine, holding my hand tighter. The aunt looked embarrassed and turned back to her soup. The dishes started arriving. It just picked up my chopsticks when Elijah moved the plate of shrimp away from me and asked the housekeeper to bring a plate of stir-fried vegetables instead. He did it so naturally, like H done it 100 times before. Liam saw it and frowned. She doesn't eat shrimp? I looked up at him. 2 years. H never known I was allergic to shrimp. Sophia whispered beside him. Liam, Didn't you used to say Charlotte was easy to please? It sounded like a joke, but it only made Liam look more foolish. I put down my chopsticks. I am easy to please. But some things only the people who actually care about you notice. Liam looked up at me, wanting to say something, but nothing came out. Elijah told the housekeeper to take the plate of shrimp away. From now on, there will be no shrimp on the Hale family table. The housekeeper nodded immediately. Grandma Hale watched me for a moment, then said, Charlotte, send someone over with your measurements tomorrow. A Hale wife deserves to have everything that's hers. Liam's aunt's face changed again. Liam dropped his chopsticks on the table. I knew the old lady didn't say this because she liked me, but Shed acknowledged my position. That was all I needed. After dinner, Elijah was called to the study by Grandma Hale. I was waiting for him in the living room when Sophia walked over to me with a cup of tea. Charlotte, can I talk to you for a minute? Her voice was soft, but Liam looked over immediately. I didn't take the tea. Go ahead. Sophia bit her lip. I really am sorry about yesterday. Now that you're married to Mr. Hale, you're not still mad at me, are you? I looked at her. Are you here to apologize? Or to make sure I'm not going to cause you any more trouble? Her face stiffened for a moment. Then she looked down again. I just don't want you to get the wrong idea. Wrong idea about what? I asked her. About you making someone else's groom try on wedding dresses with you? Or about the way you were looking at my husband just now? Sophia's head snapped up. I didn't say anything else. I turned and walked down the hallway. The hallway at the manor was long. The housekeeper told me Elijah was in the study at the end, so I walked towards the light. Just before I reached the study, I heard Sophia's voice. Mr. Hale, I'm really sorry about today. I stopped in my tracks. Around the corner, Sophia was standing in front of Elijah, still holding that cup of tea. Her voice was soft and gentle. I just wanted to explain everything to you privately. 5. I stopped behind the carved screen in the hallway, curious to see what this so-called innocent girl was up to now. Sophia stood in front of Elijah, blocking his way back to the living room, holding the cup of tea. Elijah didn't take it. Miss Carter, if you have something to say it in the living room. Sophia bit her lip. There are too many people there. I don't want Charlotte to misunderstand. The screen was carved with openwork patterns. From where I stood, I could see their profiles perfectly, and I could hear every word they said. I looked down at my phone and hit record. Shed pretended to be heard in front of me, and now she was going behind my back to talk to Elijah alone. A conversation like that deserved to be recorded. Yesterday, Shed deliberately stolen Liam to humiliate me at my wedding. Today, she was going around everyone to talk to Elijah. This couldn't be written off as an accident. I wasn't going to fight with words anymore. Whether Liam believed me or not was his problem. I was going to have the evidence. Elijah stepped to the side. She won't misunderstand. Sophia didn't move. Instead, she held the tea out further. Mr. Hale, I know you only married Charlotte yesterday to help her out of a tough spot, but marriage isn't something you do on a whim. I could hear it in her voice. She wasn't worried about Elijah. She was testing him. Elijah looked at her, saying nothing. Sophia seemed to take this as encouragement, and her voice became even softer. Charlotte was about to marry Liam yesterday, and today she's your wife. Does that really not bother you at all? She was hoping that if Elijah was bothered, our marriage would be a joke. And even if he said he wasn't, she could go on about how I wasn't good enough for him. Elijah finally spoke. That's none of your business. The smile on Sophia's face froze. She quickly looked down again. I just don't want people talking about you. Someone in your position should be more careful about who you marry. As she said this, she took a step forward. The tea sloshed in the cup, spilling onto the back of her hand. She gasped softly, and her hand slipped, sending the cup flying towards Elijah. Elijah stepped back. The tea spilled on the floor. Sophia didn't touch him, but she almost lost her balance. She grabbed the wall to steady herself, looking embarrassed. I'm so sorry. That was an accident. Elijah's voice was cold. Then stay away from me. I gripped my phone, almost laughing out loud. Sophia's face turned pale, but she still wouldn't give up. Mr. Hale, I don't mean any harm. I just think Charlotte might not have really gotten over Liam yet. You're protecting her now, but you might end up getting hurt yourself. Elijah looked at her. Miss Carter. Sophia looked up. You already made a fool of yourself by making someone else's groom try on wedding dresses with you. Don't make an even bigger fool of yourself by setting your sights on me. In my opinion, that was worse than any insult. Sophia's hands clenched into fists at her sides, and the hurt look on her face almost slipped. How can you say that? Liam and I are just friends. Elijah ignored her and started to walk away. Sophia panicked and blurted out, if Charlotte had met you first, maybe none of this would have happened. The hallway fell silent. I held my phone steady. Elijah stopped walking. There is no if. A flash of resentment crossed Sophia's eyes. Elijah continued, I don't need you to choose my wife for me. I didn't hide any longer. I stopped the recording and stepped out from behind the screen. When Sophia saw me, her face turned white. Charlotte? What are you doing here? I waved my phone. Just passing through. She stared at my phone, her fingers twisting the fabric of her skirt. Elijah walked over to my side and checked my face first. Heard everything? I did, I said, and I recorded it. Sophia panicked. What did you record? I was just apologizing. Don't take things out of context. Her voice drew the others from the living room. Liam was the first to run over. He saw Sophia standing by the wall, the broken teacup on the floor, and frowned immediately. Charlotte? What did you do to her? I looked at him, and the words sounded so familiar, no matter what happened. His first reaction was always that it hurt Sophia. Sophia bit her lip and whispered, Liam, it's okay. Charlotte probably just misunderstood me. Liam's face darkened even more. You're already married to my uncle. Do you still have to bully her? Elijah was about to speak, but I stopped him. This time, I wanted to say it myself. I looked at Liam. Do you even know who she really is? Liam scoffed. I know her better than you ever will. Sophia stood behind him, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. I nodded. Fine. I didn't play the video right away. All the Hales had come over now. And Grandma Hale was standing at the study door. If I was going to expose Sophia, I was going to do it in front of everyone. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. I hope you still feel that way in a minute. Liam frowned. What are you talking about? I didn't answer. I turned and walked back to the living room. Sophia tried to follow, but Elijah stepped in front of her. He looked at her, his voice calm. Miss Carter, stay away from my wife. Sophia's face turned completely white. She probably hadn't expected Elijah to say that so clearly in front of everyone. If it had been Liam, a few tears would have made him forget everything. But Elijah wasn't Liam. He didn't fall for her act. In the living room, everyone was watching me. Liam stood across from me, protecting Sophia. Just like H protected her when H dragged her out of the wedding venue yesterday. I pulled out my phone and opened the video. Before the screen lit up, I looked at Liam. Liam, take a good look at the girl you think is so innocent. 6. As the video played, the living room fell so quiet you could hear a pin drop. On the screen, Sophia stood in front of Elijah holding the tea. Only her profile was visible, but her voice was crystal clear. Charlotte was about to marry Liam yesterday, and today she's your wife? Does that really not bother you at all? Liam's face changed. The video continued. Sophia said, someone in your position should be more careful about who you marry. Several of the Hale elders frowned. Sophia panicked and lunged for my phone. Elijah stepped forward, standing between me and her. Miss Carter, are you going to assault someone in front of all these people? Sophia's hand froze in mid-air, and tears immediately streamed down her face. Liam, it's not what you think. I was just trying to test your uncle for you, to make sure H be good to Charlotte. It was such a weak excuse. Even the aunt who'd spoken up for her earlier looked away. Grandma Hale tapped her cane on the floor and said coldly, the Hale family's affairs don't need an outsider to test anyone. Sophia stood frozen in place, the hurt look finally slipping from her face. Liam instinctively wanted to defend her, but when he looked up and met Grandma Hale's gaze, he swallowed his words. I watched the scene unfold, and I didn't feel any satisfaction. I just felt absurd. Yesterday at the wedding, they'd told me to be magnanimous. Today, with the evidence right in front of them, they finally understood what embarrassment felt like. But Liam still wouldn't admit it. He stared at me. Charlotte, she just said a few stupid things. Did you really have to play that video in front of everyone? I looked at him, and suddenly I wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't blind, he just didn't want to admit how stupid H'd been to leave our wedding for Sophia. I closed the video. Believe whatever you want. Liam frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means I don't care who she is anymore. I slipped my phone back into my bag. If you want to believe her, go ahead. Elijah took my hand. Let's go. Before we left, he looked at Liam. Don't ever bother my wife again with your foolishness. Liam stood there, his face pale, but he didn't say a word. On the drive back to the estate, I didn't speak. The streetlights passed by one outside the window. I stared at my bag, where my phone was. with that video inside it, it hadn't given me any satisfaction. It had just made me realize how stupid it'd been for the past 2 years. When we pulled up to the estate, Elijah finally spoke. Do you regret playing it? I shook my head no. I just regret wasting 2 years of my life on him. Elijah opened the car door for me. Things that aren't worth keeping should be thrown away. He didn't comfort me, and he didn't insult Liam for me, but his words felt solid, like a weight being lifted off my shoulders. Just as I got out of the car, my phone rang again. It was an unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang 3 more times. Then a text came through. Charlotte, it's me. I blocked the number. Elijah saw it, but he didn't ask any questions. He just said, don't let him ruin your night. I nodded and went upstairs. At my bedroom door, the butler was waiting with a tray. Mrs. Hale, the kitchen kept some rice porridge warm for you. The sir said you barely ate anything at dinner. On the tray was a small bowl of hot rice porridge, a glass of warm water, and the box of stomach medicine I usually took. I took the tray. The bowl was still warm to the touch. After closing the door, I sat at the table and ate the rice porridge slowly, spoonful by spoonful. My stomach warmed up, and I felt calm again, no longer bothered by that phone call. I slept deeply that night, and I didn't dream about the wedding or that phone call. The next afternoon, I went with Elijah to his office to pick up some documents. As soon as the car stopped, Liam walked over from the side of the road. He looked like he hadn't slept all night. His shirt was wrinkled. There were dark circles under his eyes, and he was clutching a brown paper bag, the edges crumpled from being squeezed so hard. Elijah got out of the car first, standing between me and Liam. But Liam only had eyes for me. Charlotte? I stood by the car, not moving forward. What do you want? Liam held out the paper bag, then pulled his hand back at the last second. I looked into Sophia. I didn't say anything. He went on. She owed a lot of money before she came back. She didn't come back because she missed me. She heard the Hales were having a wedding, and she thought she could use me to get out of debt. The wind blew, lifting the corner of the paper bag slightly. Liam pulled out a screenshot of a chat from inside. There was only one line. Sophia had written, Liam might not be the most powerful Hale, but he's good enough for me. He crumpled the paper in his hand, leaving deep creases. I never checked up on her before, he said quietly. I thought she'd never lied to me. I stared at the paper, and suddenly I remembered that phone call on my wedding day. It asked him to choose between me and Sophia. H told me not to make him choose. Now that the truth was in his hands, he finally understood how it felt to be hurt. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I'd always tried to make things clear between us. I'd been afraid H'd misunderstand, afraid H'd get angry, afraid we'd end things badly, so every time Sophia cried, I'd been the one to back down. Now that Liam was standing in front of me with the evidence, I finally felt at peace. He and I were over. Along with that wedding, we could never go back. Liam looked up at me. Charlotte? I'm sorry, I asked. Are you sorry you hurt me? Or are you sorry you found out Sophia wasn't worth it? Liam opened his mouth. He had no answer. 7. Liam had no answer. People came and went in the parking lot. The chat screenshot in his hand fluttered in the wind, like a belated verdict. But it was a verdict on him, not on me. Elijah stepped forward, blocking the paper bag Liam was holding out. Liam, whatever you have to say, say it here. Liam looked up at him, his eyes still filled with shame. Uncle Elijah, this is between me and Charlotte. Elijah's voice was flat. She is my wife now. He glanced at the paper in Liam's hand. And don't call her Charlotte anymore. Liam crumpled the paper even tighter. I tugged gently on Elijah's sleeve. Let me talk to him alone. Elijah looked at me, making sure I wasn't forcing myself, then stepped back to stand beside me. I looked at Liam. You chose to leave me on our wedding day. That was your decision. There's no going back for us. With that, I didn't wait for his explanation. I turned and walked into the office building with Elijah. That afternoon, after we finished our business, we drove back to the estate. On the way, I remembered that my passport, laptop, and some work documents were still at my apartment. I said to Elijah, I need to go back to my place for a bit. He asked, do you want me to come with you? No. I said, it's just my laptop and some clothes. It'll be quick. Elijah looked at me for a moment, but he didn't insist. Have the driver wait for you downstairs. My apartment wasn't far from the office. It was a small place I'd bought myself after I started working. A week before the wedding, I'd left my passport, laptop, and a few changes of clothes there, planning to move them over gradually after the wedding. Now, it turned out to be convenient. I packed my passport, laptop, and clothes into a suitcase, then pulled a cufflink box out of a drawer. It was the wedding gift I'd been planning to give Liam. I stared at it for a few seconds, then threw the whole box into the trash. I was halfway through packing when the doorbell rang. I thought it was the driver coming up to help. But when I opened the door, Liam was standing there. H changed his clothes, but he still looked terrible. He was holding a box of the pastries I used to love. Charlotte? I knew you'd come back here. My hand was still on the door. Were you following me? I just wanted to see you, he said, taking a step forward. I broke things off with Sophia. I'm not going to help her with her debts or anything else anymore. I didn't move out of the doorway, so Liam held out the box of pastries. Can we start over? I was an idiot on our wedding day. I never should have left you. Give me one more chance, and I'll give you the wedding you deserve. I stared at the box of pastries. The first year we were engaged, H brought me a box of warm chestnut tarts from this shop when I was working late. That's why I'd loved this place, because of that one time. But after that, it had always been me buying a box and waiting for him in the car until the pastries went cold. Now H finally brought them again, but I didn't want them anymore. Liam, I'm married. His voice became urgent. You and my uncle are just doing this out of spite. You couldn't have fallen for him that fast. Even if I hadn't fallen for him, it'd never go back to you. Liam's face turned pale. I started to close the door, but he suddenly reached out and blocked it. Charlotte, I realize now that the person I love is you. I looked at his hand. You didn't just realize that. He froze. You only realized it when you found out Sophia didn't love you back. The hallway fell silent for a few seconds. Liam looked like H been punched in the gut, his face turning even paler. Do you have to say it like that? What else should I say? I asked. That you just made a mistake? That I should forgive you for being lied to? He grabbed my wrist. I never meant to hurt you. I tried to pull away, but he wouldn't let go. Let go of me. He didn't. My phone vibrated on the coffee table. I glanced over and saw it was a message from the driver. Mrs. Hale, Mr. Hale is already downstairs. I froze for a second. I found out later that the driver had seen Liam go into the building and called Elijah immediately. Elijah hadn't stopped me from coming back to get my things, but H never really left me alone. The next second, a hand reached out and grabbed Liam's wrist. Elijah stood in the doorway, his face dark with anger. I thought I told you not to touch my wife. Before Liam could react, Elijah punched him in the face. The pastry box fell to the floor, and the contents spilled everywhere. Liam stumbled back against the wall, holding his face. Uncle Elijah. She was supposed to be my wife. Elijah pulled me behind him. You said it yourself, supposed to be. Liam looked at me desperately. Charlotte, he stole you from me when you were vulnerable. I stepped out from behind Elijah. He didn't steal me. You gave me away. Liam froze. I continued. On our wedding day, I gave you a choice. You chose Sophia. He had nothing to say to that. Elijah told the driver to bring my suitcase down as we left the apartment. I looked back over my shoulder. The box of pastries lay crushed on the floor, cream smearing the tiles. It looked messy and pathetic, just like the 2 years I'd wasted waiting for the wrong man. In the car, I didn't speak for a long time. After a while I said, it's really over between him and me, I know. I turned to look at him. Aren't you going to ask if I regret it? Elijah said, if you'd regretted it, you wouldn't have stood beside me just now. The car fell silent. I looked down at the ring on my hand. It was still a little loose, but I wasn't worried about it falling off anymore. Not like I had been that first day. I said quietly, Elijah, can I hug you? He froze for a moment, clearly surprised. I didn't wait for his answer. I leaned over and wrapped my arms around him. His hand hovered in the air for a few seconds, then finally came to rest on my back. His touch was light, but steady. Charlotte, he said, I'm here now, always. I rested my head on his shoulder, and suddenly I remembered the art studio I hadn't seen yet. And I remembered what the assistant had said, that it had been prepared a long time ago. I looked up at him and asked, Elijah, did you know me a long time ago? He was silent for a moment. Soon. I'll tell you everything soon. 8. Elijah said, H, tell me soon. I thought it would be a long time. But the next morning, he took me to the end of the second floor and pushed open the door I'd never been through. It was an art studio. An easel stood against the wall. The cabinets were filled with paints and paper, and there was a large table by the window. On the table sat an old photo frame. Inside was a picture of me in my university student council shirt, wearing my name tag, standing backstage at the auditorium holding a bottle of water. I walked over and picked up the frame. Why do you have this photo? Elijah stood in the doorway, silent for a few seconds. 7 years ago, there was a power struggle in the Hale family. It'd just come back from abroad. And I hadn't solidified my position yet. I was asked to give a lecture at your university. I held the frame, and the memory slowly came back to me. That lecture had been almost empty. A lot of people had showed up, but almost no one was listening. After it ended, someone had said right to his face that the Hales could have sent anyone and it would have been better than him. It'd just been a student council member in charge of backstage supplies. I remembered handing a man a bottle of water, and I remembered saying, "Mr. Hale, I thought your lecture was excellent. One day, everyone will see how valuable you are." I looked up at him. "That was you." Elijah nodded. "That was me." I didn't say anything for a long time. It had just been a random word of encouragement, something I'd almost forgotten myself, but H remembered it for 7 years. Elijah walked over to me and opened a drawer next to the easel. Inside was a flyer from a design exhibition I'd participated in during university. It had been a public event, and my name was printed on the flyer along with all the other students. But H kept it all these years. "The next time I saw you, you were already engaged to Liam." His voice was flat when he said this. I had no right to interfere. I stared at the flyer. I could barely remember what year that exhibition had been. "So you've always known I love painting?" "I have." "And about my stomach problems? My allergies?" Elijah looked at me. "Some things I found out later, some things you never really hid." I thought about the wedding day, when H noticed I hadn't touched the cold dishes. I thought about the medicine H had ready at the estate. I thought about this art studio that had been prepared long ago. These weren't random acts of kindness. This was someone had been watching me from afar, paying attention to every little thing about me. I put the photo frame back on the table. "Elijah, when you asked me to marry you that day, it wasn't just to clean up the Hale family's mess, was it?" "No." "And it wasn't out of pity?" "No." He paused for a moment, his voice dropping slightly. "I was just finally given a chance to come to you." I looked down at the ring on my hand. It had been resized now, fitting perfectly on my finger. I asked him, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Elijah said, "You just left Liam. I didn't want you to feel like you were being pushed into another relationship." That sentence made my heart feel light. Even when he was confessing his feelings, H left me a way out. I walked over to the easel and found a blank sheet of paper already clipped to it. The paints beside it were unopened, the pencils were sharpened neatly, and even the wet wipes were placed on the left side, just where I liked them. When I was in university, I always kept my supplies on my left side when I painted. It was such a small habit that even my mother didn't always remember. Elijah saw me staring and explained, "I wasn't sure if you still painted, so I never touched anything." I picked up a pencil and made the first mark on the paper. I drew the photo frame on the windowsill. Elijah didn't rush me, and he didn't stand too close. He just stood beside me, opening the tubes of paint one by one. That morning, I painted slowly. By the time I finished, the 7-year-old me in the photo still wasn't fully formed, but there was a ring drawn in the corner of the paper. I asked him, "Is it ugly?" Elijah stared at it for a long time. "It's perfect," I laughed. "You don't know anything about art, do you?" He said, "I know. I'm going to hang it on the first wall of the studio later." He had the painting framed and hung it exactly where he said he would. That afternoon, Elijah took me back to the Hale Manor to pick up the jewelry Grandma Hale had made for the wedding. Liam was there too. He was standing in the courtyard, quieter than H been the past few days. When he saw me, his lips moved. But he didn't call me Charlotte again. I came to apologize. I stood beside Elijah, not moving forward. He looked down. "I'm sorry for what I did on our wedding day." The apology came too late to fix what had been broken. I said, "I accept your apology." A flicker of hope appeared in Liam's eyes. I continued, "But I'm never coming back." The hope faded quickly. He glanced at Elijah, then finally said, very quietly, "And Charlotte?" I didn't respond. Elijah took my hand. "Come on, the people from the bridal shop are here." That day, we went to try on our new wedding dresses. No Sophia, no late groom. 2 weeks later, we had our wedding. This time, there was no bride left waiting at the altar. On our wedding day, Elijah slipped the ring onto my finger himself. He said, "Charlotte, I've been waiting 7 years for this day." I looked at him and smiled. This time, I married the right man. After the wedding, Elijah took me on our honeymoon. We went to the tropical island I'd written about in my university bucket list. The night before we left, I was packing my suitcase. and I put the unfinished sketch of the old photo in with my documents. Elijah saw it and asked, "Why are you bringing that?" I slipped it into the file folder. "I'm going to finish it when we get back," he said. "Okay." When the plane landed, the sea breeze blew my skirt up. Elijah held the luggage in one hand and my hand in the other, and asked me where I wanted to go first. I looked at the wedding ring on his hand, and suddenly I thought that being left at the altar hadn't been the worst thing that ever happened to me, because it had led me to the man had been waiting for me all along.